Hi, welcome back. I'm Melissa Laing and this is part 2 of our reformer introduction. Okay, so foot placement is really important to me. The position of your bones will determine how the fibula and the tibula sit, which affect your knee and then your pelvis and all the way up. So when you're on the reformer, you want to place the bar in this position first. This is where your transverse arch is. So the transverse arch works that way, okay? Then you'll move to the heel, okay? But most of all, learn where a bone called the navicular is, because you want to keep a sensation that your energy is through these 3 points with a nice lift of your navicular, okay? So it's almost like the pelvic floor of the foot that you want to be aware of. So firstly, position your feet so that you can feel that transverse arch. And as I said, that sense of lift underneath the sole of the foot. Then align your knees and your hips. Now, as I said before, when we move back and forth, pressing out and back, what I see a lot of is people tucking their pelvis into a posterior tilt and then moving into an anterior tilt. So it's important that when we're on the reformer, that once we've recruited our core muscles, our pelvic floor and our transverse, that we more or less keep the pubic bone and the hip bones nice and level. If anything, the pubic bone will be just a little bit higher. So as you practice, place your hands here. So you're going to breathe in first, and again, you're thinking of the breath filling up the transverse, so you're breathing in. Then you connect to your pelvic floor muscles. And as you're deflating these muscles, which will stabilize the ribs to the pelvis, then you're going to look for the hamstrings to activate. So the bones that you feel at the base of your pelvis are where your hamstrings attach. And what I want you to do is to feel as though you could bring these two bones together, okay? Not so much that you tuck, so moving the pelvis that way, but enough that you feel that there's some sense of resistance in between these two bones, as if you were holding a small tennis ball. So you squeeze and activate the muscles here after you've done these muscles, and then you're going to press out and then inhale to come back. You're trying not to recruit your hip flexors to the point that they're working really hard. If they work too hard, you'll find that you just get very sore here. We already activate these muscles a lot from sitting. The aim is to elongate these muscles and draw them upwards in the front line of fascia. So that's pulling up the body, all the way up to your stern, which is up here. So the sense of reaching out through the back of the neck as well. And then this sense of pulling up has to maintain as you come back, so you don't just collapse back into yourself. So there's no free ride on the way back. So you breathe in, connect to your pelvic floor, breathing out, firing up the hamstrings to press out, and then inhale to come back. The hamstrings are lengthening when we go out, but we're trying to keep them short. The hamstrings are shortening on the way back, but we're trying to keep them long. I often say that Pilates is like the Dr. Zeus of exercise. Everything's green eggs and ham, and everything is back to front. You want to work the VMO and the adductors, so you're drawing up that inner line as you pull up, and drawing up the psoas, and lengthening out through the stern. You're trying to stay up this imaginary merry-go-round and slowly and reluctantly come back down. That's where the work is. Another area that people go wrong is they tend to work their rib cage in a similar way to their pelvis. So they press up, allowing this upper part of the back to be off the bed, and then relax back down and shorten the neck. So I'm exaggerating and then shortening. Our aim is to pull straight within our spine and to have our ear, our shoulder and our hip all in a lovely line. Okay? The next position you would do after completing 10 of these would be to move on to the heels. You may find it easier to feel the hamstrings when you move to the heels. The position after this would be to be in a turned out position, and you press the heels together and slightly part the feet. The transverse arch now goes around the bar, so we're always actively working the feet. The VMO needs to work now in the adductors. So any kind of imagery where you're feeling that you have to push against. So I give my clients the idea of a beach ball that they're squeezing air out of. And again, now we have a wrapping sensation in the back of the legs. So some of our glute muscles are now working, our external rotator muscles. So, and essentially we're completing a ballet class here. The shoulder blades are down the back. You don't want the shoulders rounding in, lengthening through. So our back line of fascia is pulling down. Our shoulder blades are pulling down. Our hamstrings are pulling down. And everything through our back line is lengthening down towards the heels, while everything through our front line is lengthening up to the back of our ears. Okay, and then the last position can be on the heels. You want to check your alignment in all of these positions. Your knee must never be out from the second and third toe. We want the knee alignment to be here in all our positions. So watch for that. You can do up onto the toes as well. These are all positions you can play around with. You can also do one leg, okay? And then what you'd be checking is that the pelvis doesn't move sideways and that you don't drop into the hip. So all of these positions are fantastic. You just need to have a little play and just make sure that you've got all of those things in place. So remembering breath, center, and then the action.